But it's great to see that the STXRs, or the XR cars, are still very much in racing service. And as you can see on the front row of the grid, it is a pair of Class D cars on the front row. So Mark Robinson has pole position in car number 69. He will start alongside last year's overall champion, William Heslop, who has moved up to Class D. Alongside them will be Steve Poole and Sam Beckett behind him. Now you'll notice that the front row of the grid is empty, and there's a very good reason for that, because very sadly, whilst we're waiting for racing to get back underway, we very sadly lost a very good friend of the STXR Challenge, the very long-standing paddock member, the assistant championship coordinator and former racer in the championship, Ken Meller. He was very much loved and adored by the STXR paddock and indeed the Northwestern Centre personnel. He was always very helpful, always very much involved. And as a tribute to him, the front row has been left empty in his honour. He's very much missed, and I know every single car in the paddock is also running a very special Ken sticker as well in his tribute. So I'm sure that everyone here will be racing for Ken, and I'm sure that he would have loved to have seen this championship as it stands here this afternoon to do so. So Mark Robinson on pole, William Heslop alongside it, Steve Poole and Sam Beckett, followed by Chris Grimes and Christopher Rowlands, Justin Robertson, Greg Spate, Lee Barron and Chris Jones. All set for 15 minutes of STXR Challenge action here at Oulton Park. Who's going to win the sprint down towards turn 1 on an ever-drying track? Lights out, and we are racing, and a great start from pole for Mark Robinson as they tear away from the line. Look at this. Fantastic sights. We see 25 STXR machines heading down towards turn 1, side by side between William Heslop around the outside looking for the lead. Mark Robinson in second place. Heslop was a little sideways, it looked like, as he turns to turn 1. Oh, they're all over the place. One car off the road is Steve Poole in the Class A Fiesta. He gets back onto the road but bounces his way back on. But will lead his head through. Christopher Rowlands and the red and white car is in third position. Fourth place has gone to Greg Spate in the leading Class A car. He was in the fight for the title last year with William Heslop and Adam Brown. So he's had a bit of a colour change. It was black and green last year. Now it's black and red. And the rest of the field pouring its way past Lakeside towards Island Bend. But look at the lead that already these two have. Mark Robinson chasing down last year's overall and Class A champion, William Heslop, as they turn up towards Shell Oars for the first time. Third place for Christopher Rowlands. Fourth for Greg Spate, the leading Class A car. And it's great to see some of the more contemporary ST machines getting up there and taking the fight to the older XR cars, and the Class A cars are very much in the mix. There's Chris Jones. Good to see him back in the championship, and he's also ahead of one of the newcomers, Alec Townley. He's being under threat from one of the graduates from Class B, Lee Barron. So he and his sibling Lewis have moved up in a pair of STs. And there are no fewer than around 14 or 15 STs in Class D in the mix. As up to third place comes Greg Spate. Nicely slots in under brakes ahead of Chris Rowlands. Just behind them is the 29, that's Chris Grimes in his Fiesta ST. Turn their way through. Rowlands a little sideways and wide on the exit of Knickerbrook, and he slots in as Chris Grimes says thank you very much. And through into position he goes. So under the bridge, over Clay Hill and back towards Druids for the first time. And it is nose to tail between Heslop and Robinson as they turn in through Druids. Third place for Spate, fourth for Grimes, fifth for Rowlands. Sixth place now, we'll catch the number, that is for, not quite sure yet, but seventh place there is Justin Roberts. Now he debuted that car last year at Mallory Park, but it's good to see him back in the mix now. Side by side for position, that's a scrap with the 96, and that's Sam Beckett, who's also making one of his debuts this weekend. Lots of great racing. Look at Chris Jones, he's been away from the championship for several seasons, but he's certainly come back with aplomb, and certainly hasn't forgotten how to race that Escort. He's the top car in Class B, of which there are only two. The other car's Jason Hennifer in the background. He's battling mid-pack. But now as they come up towards Old Hall Corner for the end of lap number 1. So leading the way is going to be William Heslop in the lead of the race. It's Robertson second, Spate is third, Grimes fourth. Rowlands going to dive up the inside from Sam Beckett. He really is taking to the STXR Challenge very quickly indeed, because he's up the inside of Christopher Rowlands. And Rowlands possibly starting to fall backwards towards the bottom of the top 10, because he's now under threat from Justin Robertson with number 70. Whoops, there goes to 67 around. That is Paul Green, I believe. He's towards the back of the field now, back in what should be, I think, 24th place. Sam Beckett in the 10 Sport Performance Fiesta. Under threat once again from Chris Rowlands as they turn through Shell Oars on lap number 2. You can see that Greg Spate in the older XR is starting to run away from these STs, but it's brilliant to see this new class has inspired so many drivers, not only those existing in the championship, but new ones externally to join in and take part. Effectively, these STs and not to be confused with the same specification that you might see in the BRSCC Fiesta Championship, or indeed in the junior counterparts in the Fiesta Juniors, because these cars are built more to Group N specification. Because while the Fiesta Championship cars might have more sophisticated suspension, they might have more dedicated exhaust and an ECU remap, these cars very much simply have the bare minimum that they need in order to be able to race, and so that's what makes them very cost effective, and that's why it's inspired so many people to get involved. And Class D has positively exploded this year in 2020 after it made a quiet debut in 2018, grew some steam in 2019 with a few more cars crossing over, and then more and more cars have been in build over the winter, and this extra break has allowed a few more to be ready. So it's great to see 24 cars out, and I know from Championship coordinator Dave Fairclough there are more cars out there for across all the classes, so it's very likely we'll see around 30 cars, if not more than that, heading throughout the rest of the 5 race meeting season. Great battle developing here towards the end of lap 2. This is for 4th place between Rowlands, Beckett and Grimes. But no, that's back in, forgive me, that is actually 6th position. So Rowlands now under threat from Roberts and Lee Bowron, and Chris Jones is in there leading Class B. As for the race leaders, William Heslop has the first proper flying fastest lap, because that's 2 minutes 8.2656, and he has a lead now of over 2 seconds, so really charging along. As here comes Justin Roberts with a dive up the inside of Chris Rowlands into Cascades, and that is a nice simple pass to put himself up into 6th position. And now Chris Rowlands can't relax just yet. He's now got the charging Lee Bowron on his tail now to try and take 7th place from him as they head towards Island Bend. And the STXR Challenge is very much a regional championship. It is usually based at circuits within the northwest, so the 2 circuits they regularly visit are Oulton Park and Anglesey, but they are also heading to Cabell Park in a couple of weeks' time, which the other drivers are very much looking forward to. They really do enjoy the prospect of racing around the twisty turns of the mini Nürburgring. And of course there'll be, I think, a away trip to Silverstone. There's one car that possibly outbraked itself into the chicane there. I couldn't quite tell who it was. It might have been, it was a car that was battling away with one of the STs. It was either possibly Alec Townley, number 4 potentially, turning their way through the chicane. So Justin Roberts now up into 6th position. 7th place now for Rowlands, 8th for Lee Bowron, and 9th now. Look at Chris Jones in the Class B Escort XR3i. Who says the older cars are slower? Because Chris Jones, welcome back to the STXR Challenge, is certainly teaching a lot of the newcomers that he may not have raced against here why he was so much respected in the championship before. There he is in the white and dark blue Escort XR3i, as now they head out of the right-hander and down the straight towards Lodge Corner to end lap 3. In the lead, it's still Heslop ahead of Robinson in the lead, and they really are the class of the field, because Heslop has a 4-second lead now over Mark Robinson. As looks like Chris Jones was trying to line up Lee Bowron there for a move for 8th position. There goes Greg Spate, followed by Chris Grimes and then Sam Beckett. And it's Justin Roberts in 6th position, Rowlands 7th, Bowron 8th. And then it's Chris Jones in 9th position. Tony Mumford, who's an ex-pickup truck racer, up there in 10th position. There's Tony. He's made a steady progression, actually. Here's Whoops off the road. That's William Heslop. William Heslop, the race leader, in trouble at the exit of Cascades. Now then, was that possibly him hitting a patch of wet grass or possibly losing the back end? It's quite far on the exit of Cascades, so what the issue was there, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if the cameras caught that and if we get a replay or not. Either way, I'm not sure. But that now means, does it mean that Mark Robertson has got through, or has he been able to maintain the lead? Because the lead gap was 4 seconds, and I suspect he may have lost more time than that, so it could well be that Mark Robertson now leads the way. We'll have to wait and see until he gets back towards the timing line to see if there's been a change of position, unless the cameras can pick up the leaders heading towards Hislop Chicane. So still this fight for 6th position rages on between Justin Roberts, Chris Rowlands and Lee Bowron, the 3 STs bounding over the chicane, exiting out of Hilltop and now on the run towards Hislop Chicane. And the wipers are on, which means that it's starting to rain again out there. You can see the wheel tracks. There's a little lock up there from Lee Bowron as he tries to find the grip, which is ever changing corner by corner now. So the rain has returned. And what was a fairly drying track with a few damp parts on it, certainly starting to get a little bit quicker now. Either that was a bit of standing water at the back, or there's smoke or steam coming from the back of Lee Bowron's car from the exhaust. keep an eye on that, because whether that's going to be a problem or not remains to be seen. Here's the fight that's developing for third place between Greg Spate, Chris Grimes and Sam Beckett. And here's our everlasting scrap for sixth between Roberts, Rowlands, Barron, and then also look behind them, we've got Jones and Mumford, and possibly also Hennifer, who's in the mix as well. There he is. The second Escort XR3i in the background, and he's being chased down by Alec Townley in 12th place. So some good scraps here towards the buff box in the second half of the top 10. So I can confirm there has been a change for the lead, so the mistake that Heslop made has not only lost him the 4-second lead he had, but also a further 4.5 seconds, because he's now behind Robinson by 4.6. So Robinson has the lead now with just over 5.5 minutes to go. But are the changing conditions here possibly going to throw a spanner in the works of the progress? There's one car off the road with a mechanical issue. I couldn't quite catch yours. It might be the 53 of Darren Watson, I think. So it's a shame for Darren if that's him out of the race, I'm afraid. I'm not sure if he's dropping down the timing screen. And yes, he's lost a place to Lewis Barron. So I think, I'm afraid, Darren Watson, we've lost him. I thought I recognised the car, possibly. It was the white, red and blue machine from Class A. But here is Greg Spate. He was in a season-long battle for Class A and overall honours between eventual champion William Heslop and Adam Brown, and all three of them took race victories throughout the season. And there were one or two hairy moments as, whoops, Chris Grimes gets very sideways over the curbs there. Across the grass goes Greg Spate, so battle of the third's getting a bit tasty. And there is William Heslop, who has Greg Spate in his rearview mirrors, but of course they're driving different machinery these days. William Heslop jumping up from his title-winning season in the Class A XR2. And there are 5 classes in the championship. You've got Class A for the Fiesta XR2s like Greg Spate. There's Class B for the Escort XR3 driven by the likes of Chris Jones and also Jason Hennifer. There's Class C for the Fiesta SIs. And you've seen drivers like Mark Noble and also John Spencer, who is the father of last year's Class D champion Matthew Spencer, and he's jumped up into a Class D car as the leaders head their way through Druids. And then you've got Class D for the Fiesta STs, where we've got so many drivers moving up. Lots of drivers, not only new ones, but others coming across from other classes. And there is also Class E, which is also for Fiesta XR2s, but they run without a limited slip diff, which makes them a little bit more cost effective and a great starting point for some drivers. And there was one or two that jumped into Class E, but then can go straight into Class A by simply fitting a limited slip diff. There is Chris Jones, number 27. What a way for him to come back to the championship. And running in currently 9th position, here is Sam Beckett in the silver, yellow and black number 96, and he still has Chris Grimes in his sights. Less than 3.5 minutes to go in this first STXR Challenge race of the day. Tail slide there from Chris Grimes, trying to find the grip. As the weather seems to be getting a bit more adverse. I can also see from my view here looking at the pit wall, there's a black and orange flag going out for somebody. Now, who it is, I'm not sure. I did mention that we saw Lee Barron's car was smoking a little bit. I didn't quite catch if that's possibly for him or not. I can see the flag, but I can't actually see who it's being held out for. So all I can tell you is someone either has a car that's either too loud or carrying a bit of bodywork or is smoking. Either way, that mechanical flag, or what they call the meatball flag sometimes, means you have some kind of mechanical issue, whether it's with a mechanical issue in the problem or some piece of bodywork flapping around. You need to come into pit lane in order to have that resolved if possible. So fight for third is closed up a little bit now between Spate, Grimes and Beckett. And the lead gap has stayed pretty static between this man, Mark Robinson, who continues to lead with wipers ablaze as he trundles his way through Knickerbrook. And William Heslop will hold on to second place at the moment. Now, lap time wise, Robinson has the measure over Heslop in these changing conditions. He was 0.3 faster last time around. There's not long to go yet. In fact, next time by is going to start the last lap. Now, if you look here, this part of the circuit, you can see with the cover of the trees, there is a dry line on the racing line heading into Druids, but then as soon as they come out of the canopy of the trees, it starts to get damp again. So that's what we mean by ever-changing conditions, particularly in the rain. There's third, fourth and fifth sweep through shot, Spate, Grimes and Beckett. Now then, what's happening for sixth? Roberts is still showing at the time when they came across the line. And we head back to the lead group as they head into Lodge. Little slide there from Chris Grimes, and the weather's getting much worse now, looks like. You can see more rain coming down as we head on to the last lap. There's about 1 minute 23 to go. Lights ablaze for Chris Grimes in 4th place. You can see the conditions are getting worse. The vision source is getting a little bit misty as well as Mark Robinson turns his way into Cascade for what will be the final time. And all he has to do, touch wood, is keep the car on the road. And victory in the first race of the season for the Hyperdrive STXR Challenge will be his. There it is, last lap on the screen. And for Mark Robinson, this will certainly be a brilliant way to start off the year. So Mark, who has competed previously in Class A in the XR2s, decided to switch up to Class D for the STs. And what a decision it has proved to be, because he really has taken to this new car very quickly. And showing his skills here as he flicks through his Britons and out towards Hilltop for the last time. The lead gap has gone back out again to 5.4 seconds. So whilst Heslop had the initial advantage, that earlier spin seems to put him on the back foot, and because of that I think maybe he was anticipating the race to remain dry, and possibly it could be a difference in setup that's working here in Robinson's favour. He may possibly have gone for a slightly more wet setup, which is certainly working wonders for him as he heads out of Knickerbrook up toward Clay Hill. You can see how much more the rain's coming down as, whoops, a little bit of a mistake there again for William Heslop. So I think possibly he may well have, I think, a different setup that's not working for him as well as that on Robinson's car. But as they come down towards Druids for the final time, Robinson has this one pretty much sewn up. He's got to get to the checkered flag first, but heads through Druids with one more corner to go. There's Heslop. This is a new car for him, so he will certainly be learning this all the way, and he'll be looking to improve on that in race 2, where he looks set to start on the front row again. But second place in the new car is certainly going to give him a lot of confidence. Greg Spate looks to be holding on to third ahead of Chris Grimes and Sam Beckett as they flash through shot, but up's the checkered flag. Mark Robinson wins the first race of the season in the Hyperdrive STXR Challenge. A brilliant drive from pole, and he will be delighted with that performance. Second place, last year's defending champion, William Heslop, in his first race in the ST, and he picks up a victory with a second place, both overall and in Class D. Third will go to Greg Spate, who wins Class A as a result. Fourth goes to Chris Grimes. Fifth goes to Sam Beckett to round out the top 5. Sixth place will go to that man, Justin Roberts, across the line. Seventh to Christopher Rowlands. Eighth, and the Class B victory looks to be going to Chris Jones, so welcome back to the championship. He kicks it off with a win. 10th goes to Tony Mumford. But no, actually changed. 8th position actually. Looks as though it was Steve Poole who had that mistake at the beginning. He managed to claw his way back up to 8th, so he had a storming second half of the race to get himself back through the field. 9th went to Chris Jones, who also took Class B victory. And then Tony Mumford rounding out the top 10. 11th goes to Alec Townley. Paul McHugh was 12th. 30th for Jason Hennefern across the line. Lofstad and Lewis Barron. Look at that, 0.061 of a second between the two of them. And then it's Matthew Spencer, last year's Class D champion, 16th. Across the line goes Matthew Morton. And I think Lee Barron didn't make it to the end. He looks like he's pitted with about a lap to go. But an exciting and intriguing first race in the Hyperdrive STXR Challenge, and it is a top score for Mark Robinson in race number 1 of 2020. It is William Heslop with second place, Greg Spate is third, Chris Grimes is fourth, and Sam Beckett in fifth position. Great drives from Chris Grimes and Sam Beckett in their first races in the championship to collect top 5s as a result. And Chris Grimes will also, of course, be on Class D podium as well for that race. Last couple of cars across the road, that is John Spencer and also the 64 of Clapton. Still got a couple more cars to finish, I think. Possibly what, 5th? But that might have been it actually, because we lost both Lee Barron and pit lane. Adam Bizzle also was another car which we lost out as well. Paul Brattel looks like he stopped on track somewhere, as did Darren Watson, who I think may have even got going here. But I think there he is. Yes, Darren Watson did get going, and he's the last car to cross the line, and he finishes in 21st place. Here we go. So here's the confirmation of the result from race 1 then, and it is Mark Robinson who wins the race. Second place for William Heslop, third for Greg Spate, fourth for Chris Grimes, fifth for Sam Beckett, sixth for Justin Roberts, seventh for Christopher Rowlands, and eighth for Steve Poole.